Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to a brand new explainer where we are going to explore an absolutely fascinating intersection between ancient mythology and modern technology. When we think about artificial intelligence and robotics, our minds instantly travel to Silicon Valley, right? We picture ultra-modern labs and screens full of computer code. But what if the original blueprint for all of this wasn't actually written in a modern research center? What if it was recorded in one of humanity's oldest myths? Today, we're breaking down exactly how these golden robots worked, the mind-blowing similarities between antiquity and today, and how Hephaestus's divine technology acted as true automatons powered by AI. So, when do you think the very first robot was actually described? Take a second and just picture a modern AI helper. Imagine a being with a physical body, spatial awareness, built-in intelligence, and the ability to actually learn new skills. Most of us would probably guess the mid-20th century, right? The golden age of sci-fi, Isaac Asimov, or maybe even those early mechanical constructs from the Renaissance. Well, brace yourselves because the real answer is going to completely flip everything you thought you knew about the history of technology. Listen to this quote for a second. They have strength and voice, prudence and intelligence. Now, that sounds exactly like the technical specs of some cutting-edge autonomous android from the future, doesn't it? A machine that has kinetic power, communication skills, and complex built-in AI. But here's the crazy part. This perfectly accurate description of an autonomous robotic being isn't from some modern tech manual. It is a direct quote from a text dating all the way back to the 8th century BC. The source for this is actually Homer's Iliad, specifically Book 18, lines 417 to 421. These 5 ancient lines detail the legendary workshop of the god Hephaestus with unbelievable precision. Basically, in these few verses, Homer provides humanity with its very first conceptual blueprint for artificial life. It's this incredible moment where human imagination grasped the concept of mechanical life support thousands of years before we even had the tools to build it. And this brilliantly illustrates the core dynamic between creator and machine. On one side, you've got Hephaestus, the divine creator, who is realistically described with severe physical limitations. He's limping and leaning heavily on a thick staff. But on the flip side, we have his technological creations, the automatons, who are stepping lightly and eagerly supporting their master. It's a striking contrast between the physical struggle of the creator and the flawless, autonomous mobility of his tech. Honestly, it's the first recorded concept of what we'd call assistive technology today. Section 1. Hardware, the golden robots. Let's break down the exact ancient Greek words used in the text as if they were technical specs for a modern robotics pitch, starting right at the foundation, the hardware chassis. The first key word here is Chryseiai, meaning all golden. Just like modern tech companies choose aerospace-grade titanium or carbon fiber for their high-end products, these ancient helpers were conceptualized to be forged from the absolute most precious and indestructible material available, solid gold. Gold doesn't rust, it doesn't degrade, it stands the test of time. It was literally the ultimate premium hardware choice for a divine build. The second term is zoesis, which translates to lifelike. The text specifically emphasizes that despite being metal constructs, these things looked and moved exactly like living, breathing girls. Homer is essentially describing perfect biological animatronics here. They didn't have a stiff, clunky, robotic gait. They moved with absolute fluidity and grace, nailing that natural, organic movement that modern roboticists are still obsessed with perfecting today. Section 2. Software, Mind, and Voice. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we shift from the physical body to the internal operating system. Because let's face it, a flawless robotic body doesn't mean much with the right brain running things. Enter the word nous, or mind. Homer gave these machines a mind imbued with prudence and intelligence. They weren't just looping pre-programmed movements like a wind-up toy. They had the ability to perceive their environment, make decisions, and exercise independent judgment. That capacity for independent thought is the fundamental core definition of true artificial intelligence. Moving along, we hit the word aude, meaning voice. Possessing a voice meant these golden automatons could interact dynamically with their surroundings and their creator. They weren't mute appliances. They could receive audio commands and actually respond. When you think about it, this is the ultimate ancient voice assistant. It's a fully fleshed out voice user interface dreamed up way before anyone ever muttered the words, "Hey Siri" or "Alexa." But of course, the smartest software in the world is kind of useless if it can't physically interact with its environment, right? That's exactly why Homer includes stenos, which means strength. These robots were imbued with immense mechanical power to execute heavy physical tasks, basically the ancient equivalent of high-torque actuators, so they could physically bear the heavy weight of their limping creator. They perfectly combined delicate, high-level intelligence with raw physical force. It is just mind-blowing how we can systematically map Homer's poetic descriptions, word for word, directly to the fundamental components we use to build robotic systems today. As you can see, Chryseiai and Zoiji map directly to hardware and animatronics. Noos is your artificial intelligence, and Aude is the voice user interface. The entire architecture of a complex robotic system was already there, perfectly structured, just written out in ancient poetry.
Section 3. Divine Technology. Let's shift our focus to how these highly sophisticated machines actually acquired their programming and their vast skill sets.
So the crucial point is right here in this quote. And crafts they learned from the immortals. Notice that verb? Learned. They weren't just rigidly pre-programmed or hard-coded at the factory to do one specific task. They actually had the capacity to learn dynamic new skills from the immortal gods. This is a massive, clear hint at an ancient conceptualization of machine learning. These automatons trained, they adapted their behaviors, and they evolved over time. If we summarize their final actions, we get to see the complete robotic system working in absolute perfect harmony to assist Hephaestus. We have entities that eagerly and dynamically support their master. They navigate their space lightly and completely autonomously, and they utilize incredibly complex crafts that they actively learned. Honestly, this is the exact holy grail that global robotics companies are chasing right now: autonomous, intelligent, adaptable helpers. Which brings us to a really provocative thought to wrap things up. Is artificial intelligence purely a modern invention, a byproduct of our current century, or is it actually an ancient human dream? Seeing how humanity's oldest literature was already dreaming of creating artificial life and autonomous helpers with such pinpoint technical accuracy almost 3 millennia ago, it becomes pretty clear. Our drive to create life from metal, to conjure intelligence out of thin air, is literally as old as our oldest stories. Maybe today's cutting-edge tech is simply bringing an ancient myth to life. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today. Until next time, stay curious.